Good mythical afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This is Mr. Ayala with the video for you. This is the Civil War, the Battles, Part 1, 14.1. As always, please make sure you are listening and writing down the notes that you need so that you can be successful on the next unit test or final exam. So, let's get started. So we're talking about how the Civil War and how it actually begins. So what happens is, when the Confederate States begin to secede from the Union, aka the South, they begin to slowly but surely begin to take over federal property. And President-elect Lincoln has to kind of make a decision. Does he actually fight against the Southerners and try to protect federal property, or does he try to let it go and try diplomacy to try to stop the Civil War from happening or bring the Southern states back in? But then the Confederacy attacks Fort Sumter, South Carolina, located in Charleston Harbor, and this ends up becoming the first battle of the war. So what happens? The rebels end up winning, and there's no deaths. So because of this battle, Lincoln makes the decision that he does have to defend federal property, so the Civil War begins. So, at first we begin by choosing sides. So Lincoln calls the various states out to bring out the militia to begin to create his army. Robert E. Lee, one of the best generals that the Union had, joins the Confederacy when Virginia leaves. And we end up with these border states, or these slave states, that end up staying in the Union, which are Missouri, Kentucky, West Virginia, Maryland, and Delaware. So, we got to talk about some grand strategies. So, the Confederacy, by the way, that is the Confederate battle flag. Their major ideas is to stay on the defensive and hope that the North will tire of war and actually make peace. And they want to get foreign help because of their massive trade in cotton. The majority of the cotton in the whole world was actually farmed in what was the Southern United States or the Confederacy. And really the Confederates are more or less like, let's just stay on the defensive, make the Union come here, because they have to drag us back into the Union. We don't actually have to attack them to separate, we just have to be left alone. While the Union, their main goals are to bring the South back, and they have this idea called the Anaconda Plan, which calls for, which is just like an anaconda, they're going to blockade all the ports and begin to control the Mississippi River. And the idea is like how an anaconda chokes its prey, sorry about that, the Union wants to do the same thing, slowly but surely wrap itself around the Confederacy until it no longer can survive, cut off the Confederacy's lifeblood, which is trade. So we get to the first major battle, the first Battle of Bull Run, and what it is the Union wants to take the Confederate capital very quickly at Richmond, Virginia. So on July 21st, 1861, they attack the CSA general known as Thomas J. Jackson, known as Stonewall Jackson, held his ground, and as he states, will stand like a stone wall. And the use of what they call the rebel yell would help the South win this battle. And what this does is the North is like, oh crud, this is going to be a very long, drawn-out war. Because both sides thought it would be quick. The South, or the Confederacy, thought that the Union would tire very quickly, because they're like, why fight when they just want to leave? What's the point of this? And the North was like, we should be able to drag them in quickly. We have more railroads, we have more farms, we have more people, we have more weapons. But they forgot that the South has better generals and has much better reasons to fight. So that's just a little lithograph. This is actually the second Battle of Bull Run, but I just kind of want you to get an idea of what it kind of looked like. So then we get to the Sears at Merrimack, or the Virginia versus the USS Monitor, also known as the Battle of Hampton Roads. So in 1862, two ironclads begin to fight off the Virginian coast, and they end up with a tie. So we have these two ironclads just kept wailing on each other, but because their armor is so thick, nothing happened. They actually ended up running out of gas and ammunition and had to go back to their home ports. It was a straight up tie. Kind of an interesting idea. So from there we get the Union General Ulysses S. Grant begins to win in the West. So General Grant himself, he becomes president later, fails at just about anything but war. He was the very last in his class at West Point. He was not much good at anything except for fighting. And so he begins to beat the Confederates at Nashville, Tennessee, and begin to win in the western areas, while in the east, the Confederates are winning. So we get to the Battle of Shiloh, April 6, 1862. You have the United States General Grant versus the Confederate States Johnston. Then you also have William Tecumseh Sherman participating, who actually ended up having 3 horses shot from underneath him. He actually lost one, hopped on another one, lost one, hopped on another one, lost another one. He just kept going and fighting. And really what this represents is how bloody this war is going to be. The Union ends up winning this battle, but approximately 25% or 13,000 of their troops end up being hurt or killed, while the rebels are the same thing, 11,000 or approximately 25% of their troops. And really, this battle really kind of shows everyone that this is going to be a little bit of a slugfest. At the North and the South are just going to have to slug it out. Then we get to the fall of New Orleans, or the Battle of New Orleans, April 25th, 1862. It fell to a Union fleet. And because New Orleans is so important because of its location on the Gulf of Mexico and the delta of the Mississippi River, Jefferson Davis's wife states, "New Orleans gone, and with it the Confederacy. Are we not cut in two?" So when this really means is this is the middle of the Confederacy, and if the Union can control the Mississippi River, now they control, they'll be able to control what gets traded from the eastern part of the Confederacy to the western part. And the western part has Texas, which has all the cattle, food, and a large population, and you cut it off from the east, there's no way for them to resupply each other. So this becomes a major issue for the southern states. So the Confederate General Robert E. Lee continues to win in the east. So the Confederacy wins at the 7 Days Battle and at the Second Battle of Bull Run. And this stops the Union from invading the southern states, and General McClellan actually has a lot of issues in the east. Robert E. Lee then begins to invade Maryland, hoping to convince some of the European powers to end up backing the Confederacy, because if they can get outside help, the Union's likely just to stay away. Though the Union constantly says this is just a battle among the states, this is an internal issue, not an international issue. So on September 17th of 1862, General McClellan and Confederate General Robert E. Lee meet at Sharpsburg, Maryland, also known as the Battle of Antietam. This would be known as the bloodiest battle of the Civil War, and ends up with no one actually having a clear victory, but Robert E. Lee does end up retreating after losing approximately a third of his forces to try to keep the rest of his forces intact. McClellan could have most likely finished this war at this time if he would have continued to chase Lee and follow him down to Richmond, Virginia. But McClellan was best known for making battle plans, for not actually fighting. So, McClellan is out in the east. And as always, thank you for viewing this, and don't forget to be awesome.